shall we begin?
Let the games begin.
All right.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Get to the chopper!
This is going to be quite the ride.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Bit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast this week. We have a lot to get to this week, so we're just going to get right into it. Of course, this is the Movie Bit Podcast, where we talk about all of the big breaking movie news items, along with the trailers that came out this week. Yes, there actually are trailers that came out this week, so we will get to that, and everything else far in between. Before we get to all the movie news, I do want to mention this solemn, melancholy note that director Joel Schumacher, has passed away earlier this week. He was 80 years old. He lost his year-long battle with cancer. Schumacher, I keep saying his name right. Schumacher has had a very long career in Hollywood, and he started his career in the fashion industry before coming to Hollywood as a costume designer. He actually started off on the Woody Allen movie Sleeper. He then went on to write The Wiz, which everyone is vaguely familiar with. He made his directorial debut in 1981 with the sci-fi comedy The Incredible Shrinking Woman with Lily Tomlin, before going on to direct and do a multitude of other films, St. Elmo's Fire, The Lost Boys, Flatliners, Falling Down, A Time to Kill, and of course then in 1995, the movies that pretty much stuck with him his whole career since then, Batman Forever, and then of course Batman and Robin. The movies that followed him his whole career since then, those movies were in the 90s, and he's been working a lot of movies after that, some of them being 8mm, Bad Company, Phone Booth, The Phantom of the Opera, The Number 23. His last movie was Trespass. I didn't mark down the year on that one, but he worked with Nicolas Cage and Nicole Kidman on that one. His last directorial credit were actually 2 episodes of House of Cards. I think they're the early seasons, like the first season. So he's had a very long career, and he's been, he's one of those directors that you either love, like the movie, like A Time to Kill is arguably considered one of the better Josh Grisham adaptations in Hollywood, to, of course, doing Batman and Robin, which is to a lot of people, the worst comic book movie ever made, to the worst Batman movie ever made. He's been very open, or he was very open about that movie, saying that he was pushed to do a lot of more, to basically sell toys. And whether you believe that or not, that's totally up to you, but he was one of those directors, especially early on in his career, who was fantastic. Falling Down is one of those movies that you can look at today, and even though it was made in, I think it was the early 90s or late 80s, if you look at it today, it's still one of those movies that, I think it's late 80s. You can still look at today, and you can say, that could happen today. That's one of those movies that no matter when you watch it, it is relevant to what's going on, to the main character, played incredibly by Michael Douglas. Of course, The Lost Boys, which a lot of people love, Flatliners, which was considered a cult classic when it came out. Of course, The Lost Boys is considered a cult classic now. So he's one of those directors that we crap on a lot because he did 2 of arguably the worst Batman movies so far. But you got to look at his whole career, and his whole career, but take away the Batman movies, is incredible. The later half, not so much. There's a few exceptions to the rule. Phone Booth being the one that a lot of people tend to grasp on to post Batman. But he was an incredible person. Just reading like different interviews about him. So we truly lost a pioneer, I would say, in Hollywood. Arguably a pioneer in Hollywood. So rest in peace, Joel Schumacher. You will be missed. So I wanted to mention that at the top. That came out earlier this week, but I do want to mention one thing. After the podcast came out last week, I mentioned one of the big news item last week on the podcast was that AMC kind of whiffed their no mask policy After as the podcast was uploading pretty much everywhere, AMC came out and said that they have revised their plans, and they will enforce a mask policy, as will Regal Cinemas, who were also very lenient on the mask policy. They will now be they're basically changing their policy and saying you have to wear masks now. So good on you, AMC and Regal Cinemas. But of course, that doesn't mean anything if cases keep going up, because cases are now going up because people are going outside without wearing their mask. But there you go. All right. So I just wanted to mention that briefly. So let's get on to this week's movie news items. So let's go on to trailer talk. The first trailer, it's a brief trailer. It's the trailer for Hamilton. Yes, the stage play. So they recorded one of the performances, and they're going to release that performance on Disney Plus. They're releasing that on July 3rd. It will be rated PG-13 because there will only be one F-bomb in the movie. Apparently, the MPAA's decision was to censor two of the 3 F-bombs in the play. Of course, generally, there you go. PG-13 movies are allowed one F-bomb. So I guess that they're kind of keeping to that rule. But yeah, there you go. Hamilton will come on July 3rd on Disney Plus. If you want to go watch that, didn't get a chance to watch stage play, like myself and maybe probably a few others, many others, you can watch it there. All right, so the big trailers that came out this week. The first one was Greenland. That stars Gerard Butler as John, with his estranged wife Allison, played by Marina Baccarin, and their young son Nathan. They make a perilous journey to their only hope for sanctuary amid terrifying news accounts of cities around the world being leveled by comet fragments. The families experience the best and worst of humanity as they try to reach a safe haven. This looks a lot like a Roland Emmerich movie. It is not a Roland Emmerich movie. It is actually directed by Rick Roman Wan, who directed Gerard Butler in the last Fallen movies. What was it called? Angel Has Fallen? Yeah, I think it was called Angel Has Fallen. So he directed him in that. So they have this. It looks fun. It looks like a disaster movie. Disaster movies tend to be a lot of fun. Just turn off your brain and go with it. This seems to be kind of what they're going for. The whole comet thing, the trailer plays it up at the beginning like, it's just a comet. It's going to be no big deal. It's just a comet falling to Earth. And then all of a sudden you realize that no, it's much bigger than we thought it was. And it starts destroying cities and all these other places. So it's very, it looks fine. It's fine. It looks fine. So Greenland will open on August 14th. Again, considering that theaters could open at that point. But there you go. There's that. And the next trailer is The King's Man. It is the prequel and origin story of the Kingsman. Matthew Vaughn comes back to direct the third outing and follows a quote, collection of history's worst tyrants and criminal masterminds gather a war to wipe out millions, and one man must race against time to stop them. The cast includes Ralph Fiennes, who plays that one man who is sent to stop them, Harris Dickinson, Rhys Ifans, who plays Rasputin in the movie. Say whatever you want about that. Jamun Hansu's in there, Daniel Burrell, Gemma Arterton, Aaron Taylor Johnson is labeled in the cast, but we don't see him. I'm gonna go on the limb and say that he's the man behind the shadows, just because it kind of maybe sort of looks like him a little bit in the right profile. Maybe that. I don't know why they would be hiding him, but I'm assuming that that's probably the reveal that he's playing the main bad guy. Who knows? Matthew Good's also in there, and also Charles Dance, aka Tywin Lannister. King's Man opens on September 18th. I really like this trailer. I thought it was actually pretty good. I like the whole, they use the song War, kind of modify a little bit to fit the trailer. I like it. I like this series. It's problematic. There is that. Yes, it's problematic, especially the second movie. But I like these movies. I think the action in it is great. This one looks pretty awesome. I like the fact they're changing it up and doing a prequel and setting it during it looks like World War I. So I like it, man. I like the look of it. Seeing Ralph Fiennes kick some ass is always great, and seeing Rhys Ifans as Rasputin is interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I am really looking forward to this. So again, considering that this COVID thing doesn't, take longer and people actually do what they're supposed to be doing, The Kingsman will open in theaters September 18th. So there you go. Those are your trailers for the week. Let's move on to the movie news items of the week. We're going to start off with some quick fire movie news items. Again, this is movie news items that pretty much speak for themselves. I don't have too much to say about them, but I just want to point them out. If you're looking forward to the SpongeBob Sponge on the Run movie, it has been moved yet again. This is probably the third move. Reports say the movie will now get a digital release next year. So it's not coming out at all this year, before moving to the streaming service CBS All Access. So it looks like CBS All Access is going to go through some changes in the next few months. Maybe they're going to start playing some more family-friendly content. But yeah, so the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, getting moved to next year, but it will be a digital release before moving to CBS All Access. Matthew H. Harry, one of the directors behind the Oscar-winning animated film, Hair Love, has found his next project in the live-action comedy heist movie called The Come Up. The movie will be written by Michael Starberry, one of the writers of the Netflix miniseries When They See Us, which is supposed to be very, very good if you haven't seen it yet, and comes from the original story idea by Jermaine Flower, who will also star in the movie with Little Ray Howley and the Lucas brothers, the twins from 22 Jump Street, if you happen to have seen 22 Jump Street. Plot details are currently unknown, but the movie is being described as Friday meets Ocean's 11. That's pretty cool. Matthew H. Harry from the Chicagoland area, which is actually pretty cool. And Hair Love is supposed to be really, really good. It is on YouTube. I did start to watch it, and then something happened, and I couldn't watch the rest of it, so I had to go back and finish that. But it's an Oscar-winning animated short movie. So yeah, he's a good director. So there you go. Claire Foy has joined the psychological thriller Dust. Foy, by the way, from The Queen. She was the new Lisbeth Salander in The Girl Who Played in the Spider's Web. Or no, Girl Caught in the Spider. I forgot what it's called. But she was the new Elizabeth in the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series. She was the new one. What else? First Man with Ryan Gosling. She was in that. She's also been in a few other stuff. Unsane, which is another one. I don't know why that came to my mind. So I don't think a lot of people saw that, but she came to my mind anyway. Anyway, Foy will play a young mother in 1930s Oklahoma who was trapped by an increasingly stifling dust storms. She takes extreme measures to protect her family while being haunted by her past. Variety broke the story and says the movie is set around a remote farmhouse and is self-contained with just a small number of starring roles and a minimalist aesthetic. The movie will be directed by William Jonas and Carrie Krause. Krause actually worked on some episodes of HBO's Westworld, so that's pretty cool. M. Night Shyamalan's relationship with Universal continues as the studio will release Shyamalan's next film, which is set to come out on July 23rd of next year. What the movie's about and what's it called? Who knows? Because that's still being kept a secret. However, Variety did have some news on some new cast members joining the movie. The movie did already have some cast members attached, apparently. I think I read about it. I didn't actually talk about it because I think I missed it out. Alex Wolff from Hereditary. That's kind of probably the big thing that everyone knows him from now. Thomasin McKenzie from Jojo Rabbit. She was also in an excellent movie called, what's it called? I just had it in my head and I forgot about it. That sucks. Jojo Rabbit. I'll just go with that one. Elisa Scallon. She was recently in Little Women. She played, who does she play? She plays the one that is a spoiler territory. I'll just go with that one. Just in case, none of you read the book or seen the movie. Who was in there? Vicky Krieps from The Phantom Thread. She played the sister of Daniel Day-Lewis. New cast members include Ken Jeong. He was from Lost. He was on Lost. Everyone seems to have connected him to Lost. So he's done a lot of bit parts every now and then. Abby Lee from Mad Max Fury Road. She plays one of the wives. And Nikki, I'm going to butcher her last name, Amuka Bird. She was recently in the HBO series. HBO? Yeah. The HBO series. Why can't I think of the name now? Why is everything just plopping out of my head? It was the comedy series with Hugh Laurie and Josh Gad. And I just, for whatever reason, it's not, I want to say the Orville, but I know it's not the Orville. What is it called? Okay. She was in that. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Today is just, I'm all over the place today. Anyway, no word yet on what the movie is about again, but Shyamalan did say his next 3 movies would be weird and dark. So take that as you will. Let's move on before I lose my mind. Elizabeth Banks has joined the Magic School Bus live-action adaptation for Universal Pictures. She will play, yes, Miss Frizzle. Banks will also produce the movie. Of course, the movie is based off the Scholastic book series, which of course in turn produced a very popular animated series in the 90s, which saw Miss Frizzle and her class going on field trips on their, well, magic school bus. It's kind of in the title. Lily Tomlin she voiced Miss Fizzle on the series, which I didn't know about until a few years ago when I found out she was the voice, and that just completely blew my mind. But there you go. Kate McKinnon did voice her sister Fiona on the animated sequel of the original series on Netflix that came out in 2017. That didn't get a lot of fanfare. I totally forgot that they did that, and I asked some other people that I knew that are connected to, or at least connected to the movie news like I am, as in reading it online like everyone else, and they forgot about that too. So there you go. But that's pretty cool. Elizabeth Banks, I think she can make it. She can nail it out of the park. And finally, the last quick-fire movie news item is that Jurassic World Dominion is set to bring back yet another original character, although it will be played by a different actor this time around. So the character is Lewis Dodson, aka the man in the red shirt and the sunglasses who gave Dennis Nedry the fake shaving cream can, who in turn went on to steal the dinosaur embryos in the original movie. So the character will now be played by Campbell Scott, as the original actor, Cameron Thor, yes, his name was Cameron Thor, was convicted as a sex offender. So yeah, you don't want that on your set. You don't want that anywhere. So Scott is a big character actor, usually doing a lot of more supporting roles. He played Richard Parker in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, if you're interested in that. He also had a bit on House of Cards and the TV series Royal Pains. So he's done bit parts here and there, and he's not usually like the big lead actor or anything like that. So but it's still pretty cool. Now, Dodson in Dominion is the CEO of Biosyn Genetics, the rival of InGen, of course, the company that we all know of. But it is unknown at the moment if he will play a friend or foe to our heroes, which include, of course, the Jurassic World cast of Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, and the original cast of heroes, which are all coming back: Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and of course, Jeff Goldblum. Plot details are currently unknown about the movie, but considering the last movie ended with dinosaurs now roaming the planet once again, I'm pretty sure that will have something to do with it. The movie will also bring back Omar Sky and Jake Johnson from Jurassic World, the first one, and Justice Smith and Daniela Pendea from Fallen Kingdom, Bryce Dallas Howard's two people that worked at her agency. Though, yeah, they're coming back as well. Of course, B.D. Wong will also come back as Dr. Henry Wu, and of course, along with some new cast members as well. Colin Trevorrow will also be coming back to direct. He directed Jurassic World, as well as co-write the script with Emily Carmichael. She was one of the writers on Pacific Rim Uprising, with the story by Trevorrow and Derek Colony, who wrote the first 2 Jurassic World movies. Jurassic World Dominion will open on June 11th, 2021. They are set to resume production very soon, and we'll actually talk about Colin Trevorrow in a little bit in our main movie news items of the week. So yeah, like I said, that is all of our quickfire movie news items. Let's move on to our big movie news items of the week. The first one being one that broke last night. I'm recording this on Friday morning, or early afternoon, I should say. But Tenet. Warner Brothers has once again moved Christopher Nolan's movie Tenet another 2 weeks. The film was originally set to come out on July 17th, then moved to July 31st a couple weeks ago. It will now once again move another couple weeks to August 12th. The plan is to leave the movie in theaters for a longer time frame, since Warner Brothers believes that audiences will be spaced out. In the studio's own words, quote, "We are choosing to open the movie midweek to allow audiences to discover the film in their own time." End quote. Yeah, they're just going to keep moving this back over and over again, because this is crazy. So it's just going to keep moving back and back, and you know, whatever it is, just let's just let it play out. Let's see how much longer Warner Brothers will move it back and back and back. So right now, Mulan has July all by itself. Mulan is the only real big movie that hasn't moved its release date. So Mulan's going to be that, that good test of strength for, if fans really want to drive out to the movie theaters to go watch all these big movies. So, all right. Moving on, the long in the works Enzo Ferrari biopic by Michael Mann is getting ready to actually finally happen. It was announced that Hugh Jackman will be playing Enzo Ferrari in the movie titled Ferrari, with the aim to start filming early next year. It's based off the book by Brock Yates called Enzo Ferrari, the Man in the Machine, and takes place in the summer of 1957, where Ferrari faced various struggles, like going on the verge of bankruptcy, almost pretty much going broke, at the same time losing one of his sons and the other one trying to find his place in the world, and then Ferrari putting all of his chips, so to speak, on the table on the 1,000-mile race across Italy in the 1957 Mile Miglia. So I'm pronouncing that right. My high school Italian is very rusty. But ironically enough, at one point, Christian Bale was going to play Enzo Ferrari. Of course, he dropped out over health concerns and went on to join Ford versus Ferrari, joining the Ford team. And at one point, Mann was going to direct Ford versus Ferrari before he dropped out and James Mangold came on board to direct. So I'm hoping that Michael Mann can finally make this work, because he's been working on this thing for as long as I can remember. So if he can make this work finally with Hugh Jackman, more credit to him. Let's move on. Speaking of Gerard Butler and director Rick Roman, Gerard Butler is reuniting with his Angel Has Fallen and Greenland director Rick Roman on the action thriller Kandahar. Wan will co-write the script and direct the movie. He co-wrote the script with a former military intelligence officer named Mitchell LaFortune, with a story based on LaFortune's experience at the Defense Intelligence Agency in Afghanistan during the time of the Edward Snowden leaks. So you can only tell how this movie's going to play out. Butler will play Tom Harris, an undercover CIA operative working in the Middle East, when his covert identity and classified mission are revealed by a dangerous intelligence leak. Stuck in the heart of hostile territory, Harris and his translator must fight their way out of the desert to an extraction point in Kandahar, eluding the elite special forces hunting them. This is actually, again, the third outing. They worked together on Angel Has Fallen, and of course Greenland, and now they're working on this. I guess, Angel Has Fallen wasn't overly great. I think it was stuck to some limitations, but let's see how they do with Greenland, and let's see how they do with this, I guess. This also sounds like Extraction, the Netflix movie, a little bit. So I kind of got that little vibe there, but we'll see what happens. Moving on. The horror anthology series VHS is getting a reboot thanks to Searchlight Pictures. David Bunker who is doing the new Hellraiser, has written and developed the reboot, which is titled VHS 94. Bunker will produce the movie as well, along with Radio Silence, aka the guys behind Ready or Not, and of course we'll be doing the new Scream movie. We also have an update on that in a little bit. There is already other directors attached to the movie as well. Simon Barrett, who was the writer for the movies You're Next, The Guest, the new Blair Witch. He also wrote 2 of the segments in the first movies, and directed tape 49 in the sequel to VHS. Indonesian director Timo, I'm going to butcher his last name. Nope, not even going to say it. He directed Safe Haven in VHS Part 2. He also did L is for Libido in the ABCs of Death. He also directed the amazing action movies like Headshot and The Night Comes For Us, both of which are on Netflix. He also directed the horror movies in Indonesia called The Devil May Take You and the sequel. And newcomer Chloe Akuno is also going to join the fun. There's also the search for other directors at the moment. VHS 94 is being labeled as the first in the horror series to be presented in a single fluid narrative, with each section linked up, I should say. The original series included, like I mentioned, VHS, VHS 2, VHS Viral, as well as a spin-off Siren. Apparently, there was also a Snapchat series, like a mini series on Snapchat, which I didn't know about, but I guess there was one. I watched the first VHS. I didn't see all of VHS 2, and I didn't watch VHS Viral. I did watch the spin-off Siren, which was not very good. As it pains me to say, it wasn't very good, but it wasn't very good. But the first VHS was actually pretty good. It was spooky. It was I think it was just the right amount for what it was trying to do at the time. I think a reboot is interesting that they want to do it. It sounds like, I keep saying 94. I don't know if maybe they want to spin that like all these take place in the 90s or what they're going to do, but we'll have to see what they end up doing with that. I'm interested. I mean, the VHS series is cool because it brings different visions together, but it sounds like this new version is going to have all of them connected in some way, shape, or form. So I'm more interested in kind of seeing how they kind of put that together, to be honest. So let's move on to Scream, I guess. Let's just jump a little bit here on my timeline. Earlier this year, it was announced that the Ready or Not directors, Matt Benintinelli Oakland and Tyler Gillette, would be directing the next Scream movie, which will not be a reboot because they said it wasn't going to be a reboot, and they're bringing back David Arquette to reprise his role as Dewey, and Neve Campbell is in early talks, or heavy talks, to come back as well. The move came from Spyglass Media Group, but now the studio is teaming up with Paramount Pictures to release the movie, and a little sooner than we all thought. The news is that Paramount will release the movie sometime in 2021. Plot details are being kept under wraps, but creator of the series, Kevin Williamson, is serving as an executive producer, and plans are to shoot later this year when safety protocols are put in place in North Carolina, which is where they're doing the filming. So there you go. Let's move on. Let's stick a little bit with the horror. It was a good week for horror movie news, apparently. David F. Sandberg, the director of Shazam, who started off his career in horror, is returning to the horror genre for The Culling. The movie will be released through Lionsgate and is written by newcomer Stephen Herman and will follow a troubled priest who confines himself to a remote cabin in the middle of the woods where he attempts to make a last stand against the demon that terrorized his family when he was a child. Sandberg, like I mentioned, started off in Hollywood, adapting his own short film Lights Out, and then directing Annabelle Creation before directing Shazam. He even directed during the quarantine. He's directed 2 horror shorts in the quarantine called Shadowed and Not Alone in Here, which I have not seen. I knew that he had released them. I just hadn't watched them yet. So that's on me. But this concept-wise, plot-wise, it sounds interesting. And with David F. Sandberg behind it, I think it sounds pretty cool. I think Lights Out was really good. The short and the feature film. I think the feature film had some problems because, they were trying to expand this little idea and try to, flesh it out as much as they could. But I really loved Annabelle Creation. I thought Annabelle Creations was the best of the 3. That's just my opinion. And then, he went on to direct Shazam, which he did a pretty great job on that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. I really am. So more credit to him. Let's move on to the next. I can't speak today. I really don't know what's wrong with me today. And I'm leaving all this in. So let's move on to the next movie news item. David Leitch, the director of John Wick, Deadpool 2, Atomic Blonde, and Hobbs & Shaw, has signed on to direct the action thriller Bullet Train. Another big get here is that Anton Fuqua, the director of Training Day and The Equalizer, is attached to the project as well as producer. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if maybe Fuqua was going to direct at first, and he was like, I'll just take a back seat and produce. Still, the team up of Anton Fuqua and David Leitch in any sort of way is really, really cool. The movie is based off the popular manga of the same, I believe the same name. I couldn't get that, but from what I could gather, it centers on a group of hitmen and assassins with conflicting motives on a train in Tokyo, obviously a bullet train. Hence the title. The hope is to start shooting in the fall, and it is being tonally described as Speed meets Nonstop. And Nonstop is the Liam Neeson movie where he was on a plane that came out in 2014. So I'm okay with that. That actually sounds not that bad. And of course, David Leitch, we can expect some really big action movies, of course, some big action moves from him. So I'm looking forward to that. Moving on, Universal Pictures is looking to reboot the late 90s blockbuster Twister. Not only that, the studio is also in negotiations with Joseph Kosinski, the director of Tron Legacy, Oblivion, and the upcoming Top Gun Maverick, to direct the movie, with Frank Marshall, the famed producer Frank Marshall, to produce the movie, with the search with writers beginning at the moment. Plot details are being kept under wraps, but the original had Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt as storm chasers who, on the brink of a divorce, are teaming up during a deadly tornado season. I remember watching Twister when I was a kid, and I don't know why my voice broke there. I liked it. I even back then I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. And then I watched it again. I think I watched it again last year for the first time, and I forgot how cheesy it was. It was just a tiny bit cheesy, but it was still pretty good. It's the effects weren't that bad. I think everyone remembers the cow scene for some reason, even though that happens pretty late in the movie. They just remember that. I still to this day remember the big ass tornado, and I was being afraid of tornadoes, even though I live in an area where we never really get tornadoes. So there's that. But I don't know, a reboot of Twister. I don't know. I guess that could work. There obviously tornadoes are still impact a lot of people every day during tornado season. So I don't know how they're gonna play that out today. I'm not saying tornadoes are not important. I just feel like back when this movie came out, I feel like tornadoes were like always in the news, and like today it's like tornadoes aren't really in the news unless it unfortunately destroys a town. But we'll see how that works out. I'm looking forward to it. And as for Joseph Kosinski, seeing both of his movies, Tron Legacy, which I'm a huge fan of. I know there's a lot of hate for that movie, but I really like Tron Legacy. And Oblivion, I think that's a pretty solid directorial choice. So good on them for doing that. Let's move on. Colin Trevorrow. I said we'd come back to Colin Trevorrow. I didn't forget. We'll resume production on Jurassic World Dominion soon, but he has already set his next project with the movie Atlantis. Yes, that Atlantis. The movie is being described as a, quote, thriller about the mythical city and is based on the story by Trevorrow and Matt Chapman, who was one of the writers on Bridge of Spies, but will be written by Dante Harper, who worked on the screenplay for Alien Covenants. He was one of the writers anyway. According to the report, quote, unlike previous incarnations of the mythical city as an underground kingdom, Trevorrow's Atlantis is set on a lost continent in the Indian Ocean between Africa, India, and Oceania. The city will be multicultural utopia with advanced technology. Much like the Disney animated movie Atlantis and Black Panther, also from Disney. This isn't just some new project. Apparently, the project originated back in 2018 with Trevorrow and his team, led by production designer Kevin Jenkins, who worked with Trevorrow on the Star Wars movie they were going to direct, but then, of course, never happened. So they've been working on this thing since 2018, so that's pretty cool, and they're finally going to get to do it. I'm looking forward to it. You don't really get too many movies about Atlantis, the lost city. We got Aquaman, but I don't really count Aquaman as that. And of course, there's been rumors that they were gonna, do a live action Atlantis, the Disney live action Atlantis movie, but those never came to be. So we're gonna have to get this. And I think Atlantis itself isn't, copyrighted by anyone, so anyone can do an Atlantis movie. But Colin Trevorrow doing it, we'll see how that works out. Of course, again, Trevorrow still has to finish up Jurassic World Dominion, which Jurassic World Dominion is set for a July 11th, 2021 release. So we'll have to wait a little bit on that. All right, let's get to the final movie news item of the week. And it is a big one. It is the news that broke the movie news circuits, even though it came out early in the week. Michael Keaton is in talks to reprise his role as Bruce Wayne / Batman for the Flash movie. The report comes from The Wrap, which reports that, quote, sees Ezra Miller's Barry Allen travel back in time to prevent the death of his mother. The result, Allen inadvertently creates another universe protected by Michael Keaton's Batman, now 30 years older, end quote. It goes on to say the conversations are in very early stages, and the actual size of Keaton's role is still up in the air, but the main thing is that Keaton's appearance is a way to introduce the idea of a multiverse to fans and show there is no main, or quote, main DC universe, end quote. And before anyone starts dream matching Michael Keaton versus Robert Pattinson and then some crazy casting of bringing back Ben Affleck, the outlet reports that Keaton's presence won't affect the Batman starring Robert Pattinson and directed by Matt Reeves. The Flash itself has been, let's say, a clusterfuck. That's the best way to put it. So many starts, so many mid-starts, so many delays with directors dropping out because of creative differences and what have you. I guess it looks like it finally may happen. They are indeed doing the Flashpoint story, which the CW did, with a surprise cameo actually by Ezra Miller in the Flash suit in their recent big arc with the Crisis of Infinity Earths. So we'll see how that works out. Andy Muschietti is the current director attached to The Flash. I say that with a smile because of how many directors have been attached to this project before. Of course, Andy Muschietti, director of Mama and It Chapter 2. He will direct a movie which is currently slated for a June 3rd, 2022 release. I will believe that when I see it. And I've said that multiple times, and I really hope that this is the case this time around. Because, I really hope that's the case. As for the news, Michael Keaton, obviously, this is a huge get if they can actually make this work. And I know everyone's like, talking about, they should bring back Michael Keaton as Batman and all this, and, have him come back, for they can do like a Batman Beyond kind of story and have him play like the old Batman and have, whoever else played Terry McGinnis. This is great. This is awesome. I love this idea. I don't know if doing the first Flash movie being a full-blown Flashpoint story, I still think that's probably wasn't the main way to go for a Flash character. Ezra Miller, of course, has his own problems. I guess Warner Bros. Is okay with that. I guess hopefully they looked into it, see what's going on. I don't know, maybe they'll just do a Flashpoint story or recast the character or do a Flashpoint thing where it's like, he goes to a different universe and he comes back as a completely different person. Who knows? But the Michael Keaton bit, I like it. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. The fact that he's okay with it. He's okay with coming back. I think he's at that point in his career where it's like, you know what? Yeah, let me come back. Let me do it. Let me get one more go. Make the fans happy, and let's give me the cape and cowl again, and let's do it. And having the Flash do it with the Flashpoint paradox, I think that works. I think that's a good, solid way to bring him back and do it. Obviously, we don't know the extent of his role, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But I like this idea. I think it's kind of cool. We'll see what happens at the end of the day. But again, I just want the Flash movie to actually happen. I'm not even the biggest Flash fan. I think I like the character, but I'm not the biggest fan per se. And for them to delay the movie for as long as they have, it's just that's what gets me more upset. It's not even the fact that I'm a Flash fan. It's the fact that they've had so many directors attached to the point where it got ridiculous that they kept dropping out over creative differences. That was the thing that made me upset. But the main thing, of course, of the story is that Michael Keaton, and I like it. I like the fact they're going to bring him back and everything. So more kudos to them if they can pull that off. All right. That is it. That's not it, because this broke out just as I was about to send the podcast out, so I just figured I might as well talk about this. Margot Robbie will star in a female-led version of Pirates of the Caribbean, which will be written by her Birds of Prey writer Christina Hodson. Disney is in early development on the movie, which is being developed separately from another Pirates of the Caribbean reboot that was announced in October, with franchise writer Ted Elliott and Chernobyl creator Craig Mazin developing the story for that one. So the Robbie-led Pirates movie is not intended to be a spin-off, but rather a wholly original story with new characters under the franchise brand. The movie will be produced by series and franchise producer Jerry Bruckheimer. He will produce this female-led version. No directors attached at the moment just yet, but I can only imagine with Hodson and Robbie attached that I'm sure Disney will do everything they can to get a more than highly qualified director attached to it. The Pirates of the Caribbean movies, Disney has kind of really ran their course with the movies. The original franchise, I guess you can say, kind of ran its course. They kind of lost a lot of steam after arguably the first three. I know the last one, they tried to kind of make it as a passing of the torch on to other characters. Just didn't really work the way I think they wanted it to. But as for this, Margot Robbie, I would have loved to see them have Margot Robbie be the lead in the overall franchise, not just develop another Pirates of the Caribbean movie that just happens to have her character, whoever she may be playing, and then have their other series, just make her the lead. Like Margot Robbie is a bankable star. She is well known. People love her. Just go ahead and make her the lead in that new one that you're doing, unless it is actually a completely different story that you want to tell, which is fine. I just find it weird that they're making two different Pirates of the Caribbean movies. One, and especially if one's better than the other one, that's going to be a real problem for you, and you're going to end up probably merging the two together eventually if that happens to be the case. But as for Margot Robbie leading her own Pirates of the Caribbean movie, I think that's kind of cool. I think it's kind of great. You got Christina Hodson in there, writing it for her. They obviously have a great relationship since they did Pirates of the Caribbean. Christina Hodson's pretty much a rising star in Hollywood. She also wrote Bumblebee. I know she was attached to some other big project recently that I forgot to mark down, but this is pretty cool. I kind of like this idea. Again, I would have probably liked it even more if she was leading the whole thing instead of just doing this other separate thing, even though it's considered from the report not a spin-off. But I don't know, it's just really weird that they're doing. It's kind of similar to what Sony did back in the day, when they were developing at the time when the Paul Feig female Ghostbusters movie, they were also developing the other Ghostbusters movie that I guess in turn ended up becoming Afterlife, which is supposed to come out this year. It was already supposed to come out, and then obviously it didn't come out because of COVID. But it's kind of similar to that. I feel like, they're not giving, I don't know, why would you do it? Why would you announce and why would you reveal it that you're working on this other project and then you're doing this female-led project the other way around? I don't mind it. I kind of, I think the Pirates of the Caribbean movies kind of ran their course. And the fact that they turned Jack Sparrow into a lead character, even though he's clearly a supporting character, he should be a supporting character in those movies. They made him the lead star and they kind of lost their luster a little bit. But I don't know. I like this idea. I like Margot Robbie. I like her, branching out and doing these kind of different movies. I think this would be kind of cool. We gotta have to wait and see who the director is. But again, I think with Robbie and Hodson, they'll probably bring in someone that they want so they can knock out another great movie. Yeah. Okay. Now that's it. That is all the movie news that has come out throughout the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast this week, even though I was just a blumbering mess this week, apparently. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you need to check anything else out, everything will be linked down below in the description/show notes area. Trailers, where you can find me on social media, everywhere else. If you're listening to this on YouTube, appreciate it if you give me that thumbs up and comment what you want. Subscribe, even maybe, that'd be awesome. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcast, you can go ahead and subscribe there. Leave me a review and a rating. That really helps out in the long run of this podcast. I really appreciate it. And it would give me a better reason to not mess up. Not that I need a reason to mess up. I shouldn't mess up, but yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. I think I need water. I think that's what it is. You know what else? It's hot in this room. I had to close the door because the air conditioning was really loud. So it's really hot in this room. And that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. You can also find me on Stitcher. The podcast is also over there. I'm trying to get the podcast in other places as well for you guys so you guys can enjoy them if you don't want to go and search out those places. If you have a preferred spot where you listen to the podcast, you can go listen over there. So I am trying to get the podcast in other places, so bear with me on that. But yeah, I want to get out of this room because this is starting to get hot. And now that I've said it, I felt myself get hotter. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I highly appreciate it for you guys listening. I will see you guys hopefully next week. And in the meantime, be safe, be happy, wear a mask, be good people. Just don't be a dick. It's not that hard. Just be nice. Just be nice to people. You don't got nothing, you don't have anything to say nice. Just don't say anything. Just walk away. All right. That's it, everybody. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I appreciate it. I've been your host, Christian. I will see you guys next week. And as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!